Okay, so yes, today we're going to be comparing Robotics Notes Elite to Robotics Notes Elite HD, which just came out yesterday, which is an upgraded HD version of the Robotics Notes Elite release. I have the Switch version, and well, let's just jump straight into the comparison. First of all, let's see which one starts up faster, I guess. So I can already tell you that the Switch version, the HD version, unfortunately has some issues. As you can see, it started up quicker, but that's in part because the Vita version has to check the trophy data, which of course doesn't exist on the Switch. And the audio is from the Switch version, simply because if I keep two audio streams, it's just going to be confusing. So here we go. This is Robotics Notes Elite. As you can see, the title screens are very similar. I'm gonna go over this a bit later, but you may notice that the Switch release on the right here has a pattern in the background, whereas the Vita version is just plain white. And yeah, that's the opening. And yes, Robotics Notes does actually change the background depending on the time of day you're playing. So right now it's 9:10 p.m. and it's changed the background to a night scene. So let's jump into the game itself. Yes, I do have a full save, just ignore that. So as you can see, the menu is scaled absolutely the same. It is scaled the same on the Vita version, the Switch version. So if you're playing on a big TV, this might look a bit like big, sort of made more for smaller Vita screen, and they've left it like that, which is a bit weird because, and I'm gonna add another layer to the comparison. I'm gonna make the audio slightly quieter because it's too loud. I'm gonna add another layer, and we're gonna take a look at the original Robotics Notes for Xbox 360, which is right here. As you can see, the menu is scaled appropriately for the big screen. So the menu items are slightly smaller. It sort of makes more sense, really, to have the items slightly smaller. So it's really unknown to me why they decided to keep the Vita sort of resolution for the menu. It's really weird because, as we're gonna find out, and I'm gonna change to Switch version for just a second, because I'm going to load up a save and I don't want you guys to see spoilers potentially. Compared to the original Robotics Notes, Elite sort of fixed up the pacing, added some animated elements, so like bits from the anime. This is kind of where the Elite comes from. For Steins Gate Elite, though with Steins Gate Elite obviously they did everything in the anime. But yes, and it also adjusted the ending to be much better in my opinion, though I haven't actually read the original Robotics Notes. I've only sort of heard about it, and in my opinion Elite does it better. So that's what the difference is. Also, they updated the models. The models look a lot better, as we're going to see. I'm going to compare them to the original version too, just so you can see that just how much better they are. If you only have the PS3, it's probably fine. There are some bits in the original that Elite actually cut out, mainly some interaction between Nakai and Aki. It's not really important, but I would say playing the original version is viable as well. So let's load up a save here, and we're gonna see just how much more HD they made the game. So here's the Switch version, and here's the same scene in the Vita version. I think you can immediately see the difference between the two. Obviously, the Switch version is 1080p, and it is actually 1080p. The resources are 1080p. However, the videos are not 1080. They're 720p, and I think they've been, even some of them have been maybe upscaled. I'm not entirely sure, but they don't look too great. So now just gonna go to the comparison view. As you can see, just how much higher def this is. So another problem I have with the Switch version, as you might notice already, the name tag thing under the name for who is speaking right now is kind of broken in the Switch version. As you can see, it doesn't have the dot at the end of the line, and it's also scaled incorrectly, which is a shame. It's been a bug since the first time we've seen the Switch port. I just clicked through accidentally. The thing with Vita is, even if you tap on the touch screen to keep the system sort of running, it will advance to the next line. So that's my bad. Like even if you just touch the joystick, it still advances the line. It's kind of weird, but also kind of cool in a way. I'm gonna pull up another scene so we can see the actual models. So that's another thing with unfortunately, I don't think this has well, let's see. Oh, for God's sake. The PS4 version is the same as the Switch version, so if you got that, you've got the HD version. That's still Robotics Notes Elite, and I think it still has the same issues, if I'm honest. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't tried the Switch version, with the PS4 version, sorry. I have played this prologue many times. I know it by heart probably by now. So what we're gonna do? Oh yeah, the settings. I don't think this actually has like. Oh no, it does. Yeah, I'm gonna turn that off. Thank you, whoever suggested that. So now that we are in the menu, I can show you another thing which they did between. As you can see, they scaled the pause menu correctly, which doesn't make any goddamn sense to me why they didn't scale the actual title menu correctly as well, because it doesn't make sense. It's inconsistent with itself, which is sort of weird. The thing with Robotics Notes Elite HD is apparently they only decided to make it after they started developing Robotics Notes Dash, which is kind of weird. Yeah, who would have thought that you need who would have thought that you need the previous work to understand the new work, and the previous work is only available on old consoles or the dead console. Uh, but yeah, so as far as we know, the port has been rushed, like a lot, which shows. It really does show, because right now I'm going to show you another thing. So if we go to config, as you can see, all of the games on the Mages engine have this feature which syncs up the voice length to the text sort of animation speed. So basically it matches it, the animation plays for as much as the voice plays. And this function just does not work on the Switch. So let me demonstrate. So it's supposed to be on right now, but if you go, and I'm just gonna load up the same scene. As you can see, if we click find a voice line on here, see how it syncs up to the voice? The animation plays for the duration of the voice. So now if we go over to Switch version, as you can see, it just completely plays the animation just like as if it was an unvoiced line. So that function doesn't work. I hope it gets fixed, but knowing Mages, I really doubt it's gonna get fixed, and that really does bother me actually, because it just makes the whole thing look less polished than it already was once, which is kind of stupid. So as you can see, other changes, let's compare. The models have been updated, definitely. They look clean and sharp at 1080p, as well as the animations are 60 FPS, no problems there. The game looks much better than on the Vita version, which you would expect. Oh, hello Ink! Nice to see you here. So yeah. Yeah, so as you can see, let's switch to the Vita view. I wish it didn't cut the audio like that, but what can you do? So you might not really tell. Actually, yeah, it's kind of hard to tell that the models are indeed sharper. It's definitely improved. So now let's check out the PocketComm. Since actually I'm gonna show you the same scene but in original Robotics Notes, so you can see the model improvements, because the model improvements are really significant between Robotics Notes original and Elite. So give me just a second. And there it is. As you can see, Aki looks completely different. She kind of looks more angry. I don't really like how the models look on the Xbox 360 PS3 versions, but to each its own. The they still look fine at 720p. So I'm going to take this time to try and find a PocketComm section. Well, might as well show you guys the animated bits. So this was added, as you can see. This is the bit from the anime, and this was not present in the original version. So this is the kind of stuff Elite added, just a little bit of scenes from the anime. It's not completely animated like say Steins Gate Elite, and it really doesn't need that because Robotics Notes is all about AR. Now that's sad. I've got Dash like day one, and I still only finished Common Root just today. Because I've been doing some other stuff. But anyway, Rod, yes, I'm guessing that's because of the verse resolution and the scaling of OBS just does wonders, I guess, for it. Oops. So let's. So at this point in the game, it's not actually summer break. It's still sort of school for them. So another thing that Robotics Notes has is QuickTime events. Yes, this game has QuickTime events, believe it or not. And in the original Robotics Notes, the PocketComm was a separate thing on the screen, as I'm going to show you in a moment. Just a second. I'm going to try to get to the same line so it's sort of more easily. Oh, great. This doesn't work. Dang it. Yes, basically. Yep, QTEs have always been a part of Robotics Notes. Let's demonstrate them, I guess. So here they are. Basically, play Kale Ballad. And you have to press the buttons and not screw up. And that's the QTEs, which actually do play a role and are important for certain endings in the end. But I'm not going to spoil, obviously. So what I actually wanted to show is that PocketComm was not full screen in the original version because it sort of didn't make sense to display a mobile device full screen on a television, because that's what you would play it on with Xbox and PS3 versions. But on the Vita, they made PocketComm full screen, since Vita is a portable device and it sort of made sense. And they kept it the same way for the HD version, which sort of makes sense and sort of doesn't. The Vita didn't. I'm gonna show you the Vita version, but Vita doesn't have colorful buttons either. You're maybe thinking of the Xbox version, which is right here, and that does indeed have the colorful buttons, unless these are not the buttons you're talking about. But yeah, Vita version actually Beta version right here. As you can see, the official Vita button icons are colorless. That's only for the PS3 they are colored. Right? Yeah, that they are only colored for PS3. So let's go back here. As you can see, the PocketComm is full screen. And the problem actually that happened before the release, when we saw the pre-release, sort of when Chio streamed it, basically this date right here, the date display, was all kinds of screwed up. It was not scaled properly, so I'm thankful they at least fixed that. But honestly, the fact that the voice doesn't sync to text is really disappointing. I'm going to quickly just skip to the point where we can control the PocketComm, because that's another thing that where we can easily actually take a look at the models, because you have the ability to look around with the PocketComm just using Iruo, which is sort of their camera app. Yeah, I really hope for the patch to sort of, knowing the Occultic 9 situation though, I really doubt they're gonna get that out. I really doubt they even know about it, to be honest. I don't expect many people bought this or will play it. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think not many people will actually play it. Maybe like a lot of people bought the set, but I don't know if any like Japanese people are gonna actually play this version. So here we go, we are sort of in the right scene. So let's burn up the PocketComm on the Switch version. As you can see, it's full screen. Let's bring up the PocketComm on the Vita version, and it's the same full screen. And actually you can see the difference already in the date display. They screwed it up. It looked worse before, so I'm thankful they at least did this, but they definitely screwed it up. Even right now it looks sort of, the numbers look a bit too close together for my liking, but obviously all of this is subjective. You may be completely fine with this. I don't know, I'm just really OCD when it comes to this stuff. And let's take a look at the Xbox version, because that is actually pretty interesting in how it does it. And interestingly enough, Robotics Notes Dash does the PocketComm in the same way as the original Robotics Notes, which I'm going to show you in a second when I figure out how the hell to skip. And there we go. So as you can see, the PocketComm doesn't take up the whole screen, it kind of just is there in the center. And actually the date display is the same as the Switch version. Interestingly enough, I didn't notice that, so I guess they returned it back to how it was then, which is interesting. But yes, in Robotics Notes you can bring up the PocketComm. I don't know if PS4 version of Elite has the same thing. I would assume yes. Actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure yes. I wouldn't think they would change the whole thing. They would have to. They probably just copy-pasted code, to be honest, and they would have to change some things probably in order to get that working. So yeah, I assume it's full screen as well. Before this release, we were sort of hoping for it to change on the Switch. So if you go into portable mode, it would be full screen, and if you go to docked mode, it would be just as it is in the original Robotics Notes, not full screen. But obviously that's too much that's too much to ask of them. But yes, so you can bring up the PocketComm. Oh, crap. You can bring up the PocketComm anytime you want. Well, except when you can't. It's sort of like the Steins Gate phone. So here you have Twitter, which is Twippo, which are the main trigger system for robotics nodes, for those of you who didn't know. It's the main trigger system, but not the only trigger system. There are other ones, as we've seen with Skill Ballad, and there's also a map trigger system right here. So Eero is sort of your camera app, and you can take a look around, take a look at the geotags. Let's see if you can find any. So geotags are just plonked down. You can check out the information in them. It gives you more information about the world, and I think it's cool. You can get some pretty interesting information from there. So as you can see, you can move it around like this. Whereas on the Switch and Vita versions, it's full screen. And you can move it around full screen. Oh look! I didn't notice this before. Isn't this just great? Because certainly not in the Vita version. So yeah, as you can, and also the Switch version actually works with the gyro sensor in the Pro controller. That's cool. I didn't know that. But yeah, glitches. Oh, and the Vita version also works with the gyro sensor in the Vita, obviously. And as you can see, you have geotags on people as well. You're gonna get some information about them, which is pretty cool. Also kind of creepy. If you just have a geotag on you, that's kind of creepy. Yeah. Well, you see, I didn't even know that this was a thing that they've screwed up. This I don't even know what to say for this. Yeah, really, this is kind of it. I'm gonna go into a bit more detail actually, and it probably is, since it's the model issue, it's not scripting issue, that's for sure. So I don't think the scene would really matter. We can check it out if I can remember how to bring up PocketComm. It's I can tell you, knowing a bit about the model format, I would say it's consistent to an animation. It's a fucked up animation file, basically. I don't know how they fucked it up, because the animation files seem to be the same from what I saw, but, well, evidently they screwed it up. Well, that's what happens when you rush a port, and I'm actually gonna show some more signs of rushed port in a minute, which I'm sure some of you are gonna love, especially Prod, because I know he's working on some stuff in the Mage's engine, and this would probably be interesting to him, I hope. So let's actually, I've prepared a certain something so we can take a look at the actual files in the game and see how they differ. So I'm just gonna start up the VM. Give me a sec. So here we are. We have Robotics Nodes Elite HD, and Robotics Nodes Elite, and I've thrown in the Robotics Nodes Original in here as well. So let's start with, what shall we start with? Let's start with backgrounds. And I didn't, what the hell? Yeah, don't look, I guess. There weren't any spoilers in there or anything. Why the hell? I've set it to details, I swear. Okay, there we go. Uh, so yeah, I'm gonna try and pick something that is not a spoiler. Well, first of all, uh, let's take a look at the. No, that's not right. So here is the menu background. As I said earlier, it doesn't have a pattern on it. It sort of just white here in this bit, whereas Robotics No Sleet HD actually does have a pattern. I don't know if it's entirely noticeable on stream. Hopefully it is. But as you can see, it has sort of like a circuit board pattern, which is actually from the original Robotics notes. I don't know why they made it white in the Vita version in the first place, uh, but that doesn't really matter. It's just a detail. It's not really a bug. But we can take a look at some of the images. Now, here are the title images. I'm just gonna quickly, hopefully I can open two of them at once. Yep. So on the left here, we have the robotics notes. Yeah, it's probably just an oversight. Well, maybe they decided that that would look better on Vita because, frankly, you probably wouldn't notice that pattern on a small screen anyway. But yeah, so the problem with switch images, let's sort of zoom in here. As you can see, they are not really 1080p, more like 720, upscaled. And if you look at the details, they are indeed 1920 by 1080, but they really don't look like 1920 by 1080 to me. They've been just upscaled from 720. I'm sure someone with a bit more knowledge in imaging could confirm, but that's what it looks like to me. That they've just upscaled these images at least. Now, you say it's a visual novel. It really doesn't need that much power. It really, really doesn't need that much power. So I'm sure the files are the same. And I'm sure they work in the absolutely same way because it would only now the game actually runs at 1080 and it also runs the switch fan at maximum speed. I don't know why. It really shouldn't, but it does somehow anyway. So let's try and pick something that is not a spoiler and that I won't get killed for by everyone here. Well, I'm sure you've... Nope, that's not it. Oh, of course. God damn it. Actually, sure, whatever. Let's open this image. Like, who cares, right? So, in the Vita version, this image is 1280 by 1440, which actually is the same resolution as on the Xbox 360 and the PS3 versions. The Vita version actually does use 720p CGs. Yep, it actually uses same 720p CGs from the PS3 and the Xbox 360 version. The only difference being is that they are stored in a paletted format. So you can see some dithering if you look hard enough. So for example, why can't I, what the, Windows Photo Viewer sucks. So you can probably see some dithering. You can clearly see it here. I don't know if it shows up on stream. Must do. You can clearly see dithering here. And on the Switch version, this image is 1920 by 2160. So, and they've actually, this does not look like upscaled. So you can clearly see the difference in quality. Yeah, I don't have really time to do that. So the actual CGs are not upscaled. So I don't know why they couldn't uh, like re-export title cards. Uh, that is really an unknown to me. I really don't know why wouldn't they just like did they lose the files? I'm not entirely sure. But well, also fun little fact: this autosave alert image is straight from the Xbox 360 version. Yep, they didn't change it at all. Didn't change any text, nothing. So that's another tidbit for you, I guess. Now, another thing I wanted to address are movies. Um, I've transferred 2 movies here. Those are the openings, so we don't get spoiled again. Now, I haven't actually prepared a player. Oh, great. Because these are soft deck USM, I'm sure, again, Prod knows how cool that format is. I'm going to try to do something. No, of course. Well, let's just say that the videos are 720p. Yep, they're not 1080, they're 720. Why? I'm not entirely sure, but that's what they've been doing on the Switch for Mage's Engine games, except Dash. Dash actually has 1080p videos on the Switch, which is cool. But yeah, 720p openings is really, really weird to me, to be honest, because they actually uploaded 1080p versions of the openings on YouTube, and they do look 1080p. So why couldn't they use those instead of just throwing 720p versions in there? Is a mystery to me. They even the thing is they even have the original Robotics Notes opening in 1080p, and that was released in 2012, which is kind of interesting to me that they have that on YouTube and nowhere else. Also, another little tidbit is that the ending credits, which I'm not going to show for obvious reasons, on the Xbox 360 version and there only are in 60 FPS, which is interesting. Everywhere else they're 30 FPS, so that's kind of another thing, I guess. Now, next, let's look. What should we look at? Should we look at the system files? Yeah, that's another interesting thing. Robotics Notes Elite HD in terms of Mage's Engine stuff, actually uses separate font width files, which is interesting. They haven't done that before. Well, actually, I'm lying. They have done that before, but that's the first time they've done it since 2017. Uh, Also, another little thing that I hopefully can show you without spoiling anything is that the Switch version has PS4 icons right here. Now, presumably, this part is not used at all, and these are Vita icons even, and these are the PS4 ones, and these are the PS4 as well. So why that is, I have no idea. Yep, the widths used to be in the executable itself, but now they are in a separate bin file and they are loaded with a new instruction, which is 011F. That's interesting, right? That I know that off the top of my head. Just don't let that get to you. Anyway, uh, that's not for now, that's for later. So let's look at the script code. Interesting stuff. So here's a decompiled script code. On the left, we have the Robotics Notes Elite HD for the Switch. And on the right, we have the Robotics Notes Elite for the Vita. And it's, well, mostly the same, really, which you would expect. We have built a decompiler for Mage's Engine game scripts, and that's how it works. And this was made to work with the Robotics Notes Elite and Robotics Notes Original as well. It also works for that, since they did not change the instruction set. The instructions are the same. What they did, though, is they removed some dead code, which is always nice, I guess. So this part, for example, was used for checking the sign in on the Xbox 360 version. This part was used for choosing the storage device and achievement unlocking. None of that is present on the Switch, obviously, so they've just removed it, which is nice. This bit was added in the Switch version, and but this actually references the PS4 version, and this references the fact that you need to install the game in order to play the Phase 9. You actually have to install the game, and if it's not installed, it will just say that the game is not installed. Please install in order to play Phase 9, which is the same thing for here, which is just says this content is not available unless you install the game. Obviously, that did not exist in the Vita, PS3, Xbox versions, so this is the added bits. Again, removed more dead code. And this is just a startup file. And really, it's the same, which you would expect from a company as lazy as Mage's. But that's not really interesting. This is not really interesting. This is not cool. Not the cutting room floor stuff. Well, we talked about how rushed this port is, and I have 8 minutes left, so I'm going to try and finish this up quickly. We talked about how rushed the port was. So when I looked at the disassembly for the actual application of the Robotics Notes Elite, we found out that they left some debug stuff in. they left some debug stuff in, and that's really interesting. So let's just find start application is still there as per tradition. So here we have the game init function, which is present in every single Mage's Engine game, as well as that start application goodness. And here we have script initialization, and the function that follows immediately after that is the debug editor initialization function. And we know that thanks to Chaos Child Android version, which had all the names exported, except it didn't have that function. It just had the name for it. And in every single Mage's Engine game, that function was missing. They always remembered to stub it out, and we've never seen it. So, for example, this is the Vita version. So as you can see, sort of the same thing, and here it is, the function immediately after script initialization, and it's null sub, which is basically nothing. However, as you can see, it's an actual function in the HD version, and it's mighty disappointing actually, because all it does is load the worklist.txt. Now, we don't know if this did more, and they just commented out some stuff, but not everything. But debug editor is something to do with the work list, so it makes sense, I suppose. But that's not all. They've also left the instruction names, and a lot of them. For some reason, they've just kept their debug array of function names for the script. So the 3D, and we had most of those thanks to Chaos Child Android, but we didn't have the 3D instruction names. But here they are. Load model data, light in it, just there. You don't even need to do anything. You don't even need to figure out how they work, which is a nightmare with Vita assembly. It's a total nightmare to figure out how something works if it uses floating point values. It's just not fun. So yeah, they completely left all of the instruction names right here. And I thank them very much for it, because this helps immensely. Well, anyway, I think I've rambled on enough already. One last thing I wanted to show is that the model format is pretty much the same. So what's up with that glitch with Aki? I have no idea, to be honest. But did I install? Yep, I did. That's good at least. So yeah, as you can see, the data is almost exactly the same. One thing is that the Vita version uses GXTs for textures, which is this Vita specific format. And actually for characters, the Switch version uses BNTX, which is the Switch specific format. But for backgrounds, it in fact just uses PNGs. So that's pretty interesting in my opinion, how they for some reason use PNGs, but it's fine. And you can see the size difference that gives for the models. And in terms of character models, so let's see, like here is the animation data for Aki's model. And it's mostly the same, as you can see. So what exactly went wrong there is an unknown to me. So let's stop rambling on about this nonsense and return to the actual game, which has gone to sleep. So there it is. Let's take one last look at the models and how they have improved them. Just so we can see that indeed the models are 1080p now, and everything is 1080p, but as I've already mentioned, the board has issues which are probably not going to get patched